Many Israeli military reservists have warned that they may no longer serve if the planned changes to the country's legal system go ahead. Guy Paran is a captain in the Israeli Air Force Reserves, a helicopter pilot. He is one of the co-leaders of a 1,300-strong group of reservists protesting the reforms. Mr. Paran, welcome to you. Your Prime Minister is in Berlin today. He says judges don't appoint judges in other democracies. In a press conference, he said the proposed changes will bring Israel into line with other Western democracies. What's your response to that?
Well, good evening to you. Well, as you know, in our 75 years of existence, Israel faced great security threats, but our democracy was always very strong, a very strong and independent judicial system. This newly elected government, led by Netanyahu, but actually controlled by extreme right-wing religious parties, embarked on this fast track of judicial changes that will turn Israel to a democracy, to a Hungary or Turkey-like democracies, which we know are not really democratic. I don't think I need to explain to anybody in Germany, in democratic Germany, what might happen when a legally elected leader changes the political system, changes the rules, and becomes effectively a dictator that fixes everything in this country.
Israeli President Isaac Herzog says the proposed changes have brought the country to the verge of civil war. Do you think that's really true in this case?
I think that, civil war is a terrible term which we are trying not to use, but I don't think that any Israeli feels that the breakup in the society and the danger has ever been as close as this to a civil war. So we're trying not to imagine even such a situation, but if they continue to go ahead and make this legislation, as you see in your videos now, and as I know in the streets of Tel Aviv for the past 10 weeks, the protests are just growing, their intensity and the measures that are taken by the protests are getting higher and higher. We already see some signs of violence, even today in Tel Aviv, on a small scale, but as you know, the distance between that and a real violence and civil war, if you like, is not far.
Some critics of Benjamin Netanyahu say these proposed changes are actually all about protecting him from corruption charges. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a lot of people in Israel see these changes as something that he is paving his way from an endless street. He's in court, indicted with very, very serious charges. The testimonies that were heard up until now were terrible for him, and the man is with his back against the wall. But still, I don't think that he himself had imagined that giving up to those religious extreme parties that forced this legislation would cause such a protest. I think he finds himself now in a situation where on one hand he cannot disappoint them or turn them away from this legislation, but at the same time, deep inside, he's not a stupid man. He knows that this is not going to pass. So you mentioned the military. I can tell you that a big number of top military reservist units, including the Air Force pilots, which is the real front line of Israel's security force, are saying very clearly, including today, that if this legislation passes, they will stop volunteering their reserve duties. If that happens, there is no Air Force. If that happens, Israel would be in a real mess.